Atlanta, a city of lights, vibrancy, and one of the most modern urban hubs in America. But behind the glittering skyline lies a hidden truth. Thousands of homeless people are living in despair, right in the heart of this polished metropolis. Why are those who once served their country now sleeping on the streets? Why has feeding the hungry become a criminal offense? And what is it that America doesn't want the world to know? Join the Shin as we uncover the shocking secrets of Atlanta, truths that will forever change the way you see the United States. 1. Atlanta, the city with the widest wealth gap in the U.S. Atlanta is not only famous for Coca-Cola, the world's busiest airport, or its vibrant neighborhoods in the American South. It's also home to one of the most extreme wealth gaps in the entire country. You wouldn't believe it. Just crossing a single street can take you from a neighborhood of million-dollar mansions with Bentleys parked out front to a makeshift tent camp where the homeless huddle in the cold with no electricity, no water, and no future in sight. According to a report by the Brookings Institution, Atlanta ranks as the city with the highest income inequality in the U.S., with a gap between the richest 5% and the poorest 20% that far exceeds the national average. Ironically, the homeless in Atlanta aren't always unemployed or struggling with addiction, as stereotypes suggest. Many actually have stable jobs, but minimum wage simply can't keep up with the city's soaring housing costs. Atlanta is in the midst of a real estate boom. But for the poor, it's a spectacle they can only watch from the sidelines. Worse yet, rapid urban development is pushing low-income residents further away from the city center. They're being left out of the system, rendered invisible in the eyes of society. The wealthy live above, both literally and figuratively, in towering skyscrapers, while the poor sleep on the ground, two parallel worlds just a few floors apart. 2. Atlanta, a city that drives out the homeless instead of helping them. While many cities around the world strive to find humane solutions for homelessness, Atlanta has taken a completely different route, driving the homeless as far away as possible. The most striking example came in 2017 when the city shut down the Peachtree Pine Shelter, once the largest homeless assistance center in the southeastern United States. The shelter housed up to 700 people every night, serving as the last refuge for hundreds of vulnerable lives. But instead of improving living conditions or upgrading facilities, the city chose to wipe it out completely. The reason? Simply because the land was deemed too valuable for the poor to live on. Downtown Atlanta is being swallowed by a wave of urbanization and commercial development, and the homeless have become visual obstacles in the eyes of investors and tourists. Worse still, the homeless in Atlanta are frequently harassed and legally removed. Police officers are authorized to order them out of central areas, confiscate their blankets and tents, or even detain them temporarily if they're caught occupying public spaces again. On major occasions like the Super Bowl or international conventions, Atlanta has gone so far as to launch city beautification campaigns, gathering homeless people and relocating them to faraway areas as if they never existed. The cruel irony? Instead of addressing the root causes, affordable housing, employment opportunities, health care, Atlanta has opted to hide, erase, and push the homeless out of sight. A heartbreaking reality in a nation that proudly calls itself the land of freedom. 3. Stairwells, buses, and urban forests. The unlikely homes of thousands. With shelters shutting down, rent prices skyrocketing, and a government no longer keen on offering support, the homeless population in Atlanta is left with only one option: survive wherever there's shelter from the rain and wind. It's hard to believe, but parking garage stairwells, the benches of 24-hour buses, and even the overgrown woods on the city's outskirts, once untouched wilderness, have become makeshift homes for thousands of people. No beds, no clean water, no toilets. They build tents from plastic tarps, start fires with dry wood, and live in the heart of a modern city as if trapped in a prehistoric era. Small patches of forest in Atlanta have turned into nameless villages, where people rely on each other for survival, and live in almost complete silence. At the same time, bus stops and subway stations become nighttime shelters for countless wanderers. But they are far from safe. Many fall victim to theft, assault, or are abruptly woken and expelled in the middle of the night by security forces. What's most paradoxical is this: you could be just a few blocks away from one of these urban slums and have no idea they even exist. Because modern society has learned to look the other way, willfully blind to the heartbreaking reality that in the midst of prosperous America, thousands are still sleeping in forests and surviving like shadows in the City of Lights. 4. Homeless veterans, the forgotten heroes of America. You might find it hard to believe, but many of the homeless people wandering the streets of Atlanta were once soldiers, men and women who fought for America, giving their youth, their blood, and their tears to protect the nation. And yet, when they returned home from the battlefield, they weren't welcomed with open arms or gratitude. What awaited them was indifference, emotional coldness, and a society that no longer had a place for them. Many veterans suffer from PTSD, physical injuries, or simply cannot reintegrate into civilian life. With no job, no strong support system, and no family to rely on, they fall into the invisible abyss of modern society, homelessness. In Atlanta, studies show that 1 in 10 homeless individuals is a veteran, a cold, painful statistic, because behind it are real people who once stood on the front lines, once representing the pride of a nation. Some of them still carry their old uniforms, the last symbol of honor they have left, even as they sleep in parks, beg for meals, and rely on the kindness of strangers to survive. It's a cruel irony. Those who once carried guns to protect America now fight every day just to survive on the very soil they bled to defend. They don't need to be idolized. They just need to be seen, understood, and helped, because they deserve that much. Have you ever asked yourself, if a so-called civilized society lets its heroes freeze to death on the streets, is it still a society worth being proud of? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and join the Shin in confronting these hidden truths, always asking, can we change something before it's too late? 5. The homeless as victims of gentrification, when development means being pushed out. Atlanta is developing at an astonishing pace. Once run-down neighborhoods are now being transformed into upscale urban areas, filled with luxury apartments, boutique coffee shops, and trendy convenience stores. But beneath this glossy new facade lies a silent exodus of the poor, not toward better opportunities but straight onto the streets. This phenomenon is known as gentrification, the process of urban beautification and revitalization that, in reality, often displaces those with the least means. And Atlanta stands as one of the most extreme examples of this process in the United States. As investors pour money into renovating old neighborhoods, rents and living expenses skyrocket, making it impossible for low-income residents to remain. They're not forced out by police. They're priced out by numbers, and so, person by person, family by family, they're pushed to the margins of society. A study by the University of Georgia found that at least 15% of Atlanta's homeless population over the past decade are direct victims of gentrification, and the number continues to grow as investment waves keep rolling in, sweeping away the housing dreams of thousands in their path. The sad truth is this: not everyone gets to enjoy the fruits of development. Only those who can afford it do. The poor, on the other hand, are seen as eyesores and obstacles to investment, eventually pushed out of the very places they once called home. Development without fairness. Is that the real face of many big cities today, not just Atlanta? 6. The Bluff. The hidden capital of Atlanta's homeless. In the heart of bustling Atlanta, beneath the shadows of towering office buildings and crowded streets, lies a place few tourists, and even many locals, dare to enter. The Bluff. This isn't just one of the city's poorest and most dangerous neighborhoods. It's also the unofficial stronghold of Atlanta's homeless population, a place that exists almost entirely outside the reach of modern society. For many, the Bluff is a kind of underground world, where laws don't apply, where the authorities turn a blind eye, and where the abandoned struggle to survive day by day. In the Bluff, you'll see makeshift tents fashioned from tarps, old cars turned into mobile homes, and people huddled by firewood stoves trying to endure the bitter cold. There's no electricity, no clean water, no health care. This area has been completely forgotten by the social safety net. Even worse, the Bluff is notorious as a hub for drug abuse, violence, and prostitution. In a society where the vulnerable are cornered with no escape, many homeless individuals are forced to trade their lives, even their dignity, just to survive another night without hunger. Life here isn't really life. It's a slow, fragile form of existence. The most disturbing part? The Atlanta government knows about the Bluff, but instead of intervening, they remain silent. As long as these people stay out of sight from tourists and investors, they're allowed to continue existing in the shadows, a deliberate form of neglect. The Bluff is the clearest symbol of brutal social stratification in modern America, a city that can spend billions on sports events and beautifying streets for visitors, yet fails to make room for those who have lost everything. 7. Invisibility. The policy that makes homelessness disappear from tourists' eyes. Have you ever wondered why in major wealthy cities like Atlanta, where thousands of homeless people live, tourists rarely see any of them? It's not a coincidence. It's a policy, a deliberate strategy, a ruthless act of urban magic known as invisibility. Before major events, like the Super Bowl, international summits, or high-profile tourism seasons, Atlanta's authorities often sweep the homeless off the streets, much like tidying up before welcoming important guests. Tents are torn down, blankets are confiscated, and people are loaded onto buses with no clear destination, shipped off to far-flung suburbs where media won't reach, and tourists never tread. Some human rights reports have even revealed that individuals were transported out of the city entirely, without a choice. The goal is not to help. The goal is simply to hide. Glistening downtown streets, spotless sidewalks, perfectly manicured parks, all of it is crafted to preserve the city's flawless image, not to protect its people. And this calculated invisibility pushes the issue of homelessness further into the shadows, both literally and figuratively. People stop seeing the homeless, stop talking about them, and eventually stop recognizing them as members of the community. This isn't just abandonment. It's a quiet erasure, a systematic deletion without violence executed through silence. 8. Homeless children, the forgotten young victims. When we think of homelessness, we often picture adults, wandering, hungry, sleeping under bridges. But one of the most heartbreaking truths about Atlanta lies with the children. Innocent lives forced to grow up on the margins of society before they even understand it. According to nonprofit organizations, Atlanta is home to over 2,000 homeless children, living with their parents in broken-down cars, overcrowded shelters, or sometimes directly on the streets. These children don't have bedrooms, beds, books, or toys like their peers. The only thing they do have is uncertainty. Many can't attend school because they lack a permanent address. Without education, without health care, without a voice, these children become invisible ghosts, drifting through life with shame, fear, and emotional scars that run deep. Worse still, shelters are overwhelmed and under-resourced, forcing families into impossible decisions: separate from their children and send them away for care, or stay together and sleep under the open sky. Many of these kids fall prey to abuse, exploitation, or are forced to beg and scavenge just to survive instead of going to school. In a country hailed as one of the most advanced and developed in the world, the existence of homeless children is not just a tragedy. It's a silent but damning indictment of the system. If a city cannot protect its children, does it still deserve to be called civilized? Atlanta isn't just a story about America. It's a mirror reflecting the darker side of every urban society around the world. What do you think about these truths? Is this progress, or an organized form of abandonment? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and share your perspective. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any journey with the Shin, where we tell the stories the world often chooses to forget.